Hi, welcome to my presentation. So thank you for joining me for this special one-time broadcast. My name is Sean Kern, and we're going to explore the wondrous worlds of AI. We are going to explore what AI means, a simple definition of AI, so you can have a better understanding of this somewhat mystified concept and study. Then we will be diving into the history of AI, where we've seen it in the very beginning, um, where it kind of had its first beginnings in terms of literature, and then further into that of how it was applied into various different experiments. And we will also be using those principles that we'll be discussing in this presentation and applying them to LIFT to helpfully apply them to solve a possible issue that we'll be discussing shortly. Alrighty, so what is AI? So we can define AI as very simply defined as a computer that is going to be doing actions that is typically done as a human. So by computers, I actually mean machines. So this doesn't necessarily have to be a computer. It could be a phone, an application, just any kind of technology. And the overall goal of this is to simulate human intelligence through machines. And I'm sure you're very curious as to where AI came from. The first reference to artificial intelligence can be found in various folklore. However, in my opinion, maybe something a bit more modern that you would be more familiar with, we can see in the 19th century that Frankenstein was kind of the first literature exposure to artificial intelligence, where we basically, see a man being put together, but he's not quite a man. So I think that counts. Um, and then in kind of more modern times, if you consider the 50s modern times, Alan Turing published a paper which posed the questions, can machines think? And in this paper, it attempts to question that. And this question is further applied by the imitation game. So this imitation game is trying to test if a computer can think indistinguishably from a human. So how are we currently using AI? AI is definitely something that we see in a very everyday application. We can see it from mobile check depositing. So you take a picture of your check, shows up in your bank account. It's almost like magic. Very cool. Maybe something a little not as interesting, but I still think is very helpful is spam filtering. So this algorithm will find malware to make sure that you don't click on any suspicious emails. Something a bit even more highbrow would be like commercial flights. Planes, especially commercial planes, do have the capability of using autopilot to land, but that's only about 1% of landings. And then ride-sharing apps, which we'll be discussing in just a moment. So what is object tracking? Object tracking is when a computer tracks an object which travels across a frame in a video. So this algorithm attempts to track the object by assigning it an ID, and then in subsequent frames, this ID is traced to follow the movement of the object. Where do we see object tracking? We see it in a lot of surveillance, especially like in surveillance video. It tries to track objects in there and then tries to respond in terms of how that surveillance was programmed, maybe through an alarm, an alert, just depends. And then more specifically, I'm going to discuss facial recognition. So history of oriented gradients, what it does is it splits an image into cells and quadrants, and then each cell is interpreted by an algorithm using histograms. So we can take a little look right here. You've got the lovely Leonardo DiCaprio, I believe, and the changes in his face would be represented in each of the quadrants represented by each of the histograms. And then this is just quickly a little bit of output code to kind of see how this works. The DILB library has a pretty straightforward method to returning the face detector, the HOD face detector. So how could we use this facial recognition in LIFT? So my main problem with LIFT is, unfortunately, you're not able to choose what kind of driver you have. So studies show that 1 in 5 women in the United States have faced some type of assault, and then 1 in 5 hate crimes involve the LGBT community. So this facial recognition is attempting to keep marginalized races safe. So there's no currently like a female or LGBT friendly driver. And this facial recognition would help to ensure the riders that they feel safe. If they feel unsafe, there is a button that they can prompt to the app, and I'll show that here. So the rider has an option to continue face tracking or terminate ride. And you can see here in the center, they can press cancel ride. And then, and this is the end screen. If they feel completely safe, the driver will be required to drop off the passenger, and then Lyft will be notified about that unsafe ride. This final conclusion. So AI attempts to act as humanly as possible while, trying to act as humanly possible to do human tasks. And AI has so many various applications which could serve as solutions to so many modern problems. And I would like to thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy your rest of your day.